These are the 5 reasons why the Boston Celtics will be champions for the first time since 2008. First, the Celtic defense. Throughout the regular season, the Celtics were elite defensively and offensively. With a defensive rating of 111.6 points per game, this ranked 3rd in the NBA, only behind the Orlando Magic and the Minnesota Timberwolves. With the addition of arguably the best defender in the league in Jrue Holiday, the Celtics defense just got that much better, and when you pair him with his backcourt mate Derek White, the Celtics have arguably the best defensive backcourt in the NBA, which will come in very handy against the best offensive backcourt in the league. Both Holiday and White are elite when it comes to providing help defense, always coming over at the right time to make game-saving plays, like in Game 3 against the Pacers where Jrue Holiday perfectly times their steal to win the game. But not only is their help defense elite, but the on-ball defense that Holiday and White provide is also sensational, as they are constantly hounding their opponents, never giving them an opportunity to rest. And with a limitless motor, Jrue Holiday and Derek White could truly give Luka and Kyrie some issues. However, with Luka Doncic not being a traditional point guard standing at 6'7", they will need some extra help guarding him, but the Celtics have that too. Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown are also great defenders, and with their added size and strength, they can definitely give Luka some issues. When guarding Luka, you cannot let him trap you behind him, like he did over and over again to Jaden McDaniels, as it's basically a guaranteed bucket at this point. If this happens, the Celtics should consider sending help, which does allow the Mavericks perimeter shooters such as Derek Jones Jr. and PJ Washington open looks, but personally, I would take that over a wide open Luka Doncic mid-range jumper. And the Celtics have a genuine chance at forcing Luka into stops, as with a starting lineup of 4+ defenders on Doncic, it'll be much harder for him to get a favorable matchup, which would be Al Horford or Kristaps Porzingis. The second reason why the Celtics are going to beat the Mavericks comes down to the dominance over Dallas in the regular season. During the regular season, the Celtics beat the Mavericks 2 times. And if you look even further back than that, the Celtics are on a 4-game winning streak against Dallas. And what makes this even more wild is the average margin of victory of 22 points per game. With the Celtics practically dominating the Mavericks in years past, they definitely know how to play the Mavericks. However, since the trade deadline, Dallas have been a completely different team, but the Celtics did play the Mavericks after the trade deadline, and this is how it went. On the 1st of March in Boston, the Celtics were hot out of the gates, as when Jrue Holiday is making shots like this, Dallas knew it was going to be a long night. But with a counter punch of Luka Doncic, Dallas kept it close throughout the first 3 quarters of this game. Then Derek Lively, who has become the 3rd best Maverick, put Porzingis on a poster, which was out of this same pick and roll play that we saw them run all series long against the Timberwolves. But off the bench in the first quarter, it was Tim Hardaway Jr. who made back-to-back threes and ended the night with a cool 10 points. But led by a hot shooting night where the Celtics shot nearly 50% on their threes, made 55% of their shots overall, and connected on every single free throw, they blew out Dallas by 28 points on our home court, even though Luka Doncic had a monstrous 37-point triple-double. Nobody was safe trying to guard Doncic, as here he puts White in jail, then here with Holiday as the primary defender, he just backs him down for 2. I don't think people really understand just how strong Luka Doncic truly is. Like, even Joel Embiid had problems backing down Jrue Holiday at times. And Holiday will likely be the primary defender on Doncic for some time, but Boston is also likely to send Jaylen Brown to him at some times too, as with the added size and strength, he might be better off guarding Luka. And here Luka shows the Celtics why they need to be switched on defensively at all times when he's on the floor. As here Luka gets the mismatch on Peyton Pritchard, and the Celtics don't send a double, and Luka instantly shows them why that's a terrible mistake, basically walking to the free throw line for an and-one. Derek Lively was huge in this game, putting up 15 points, playing the role as the lob threat, and for whatever reason, Daniel Gafford only played 6 minutes that night, and yes, I looked it up, it had nothing to do with injury, it was just before Jason Kidd realized that he should be starting. For the Mavericks, the story of the game was their inability to capitalize on their open looks from 3, only making 28% from deep. The Celtics trio was elite, combining for 81 points on the night, while it was Jayson Tatum that led the way with 32 points, 8 rebounds on 52% shooting. As here he showed off his added mid-range capability with a one-legged fadeaway from the free throw line. And then he backs down Josh Green, draws the foul, and finishes the play. And in the game, Kristaps Porzingis showed Dallas why they are not going to be able to just leave him at half court, connecting on a 29-footer from a Jaylen Brown pass. Jayson Tatum was slow to start the game, but once he got going, it was virtually over, as Boston ran away with it in the 4th quarter, outscoring Dallas 20-36. But in the other game this season in Dallas, it was a closer affair, and early Luka was feeling it, making an extremely tough shot in the lane over Jaylen Brown for 2, but Brown would swiftly get his revenge, blocking Luka only moments later, and then using his size to finish over Doncic the other way, which is a mismatch that Boston will try and hunt in this series. Jaylen Brown will go on to have a game for himself, putting up 34 points with 2 blocks on 59% shooting, while for Boston it was yet again Jayson Tatum, who torched the Mavericks defense, finishing with 39 points on 52% shooting. However, this game came before Dallas made their season-altering trades to bring in Gafford and Washington at the deadline. But nonetheless, the Celtics still won by 19 points. The third reason that the Celtics will win the series is because of the environment of the Boston Garden. Even though the Celtics have a subpar home record, they are still undefeated on the road so far in these playoffs. And yes, those games were against weakened opponents, but the truth is you can't knock the Celtics for playing who was in front of them. With Boston being a great road team so far, if they can just protect home court in games 1 and 2, they'll be well on their way to winning the series. And when you consider the narratives that are at play during these finals, with Kyrie's return to Boston and Porzingis headed back to Dallas, this will add another level of tension throughout the finals. When Kyrie was a Celtic, he promised to re-sign in free agency, but then he would infamously buy the first ticket out of Beantown to join forces with Kevin Durant in Brooklyn. Then after the Nets beat the Celtics in Boston, Kyrie would stomp on the Celtics logo at center court, and Boston fans took this as a declaration of war against Kyrie Irving. But so far, the Celtic fans have had the last laugh in this war. As in the 2022 playoffs, the Nets and the Celtics faced off in the first round, and with a full crowd back in the building, the fans let him hear it as Boston would go on to sweep Brooklyn. But if Kyrie Irving could win a championship against the Celtics, this would truly end this war. And for Kristaps Porzingis in Dallas, it is a similar story, as he was traded to the Mavericks to become Luka's second in command and help lead the Mavericks to a championship. However, what happened instead was Porzingis not being able to stay healthy, and not only that, but he didn't get on with Luka Doncic, which ended in his departure to Washington and then Boston. But so far, the Mavericks fans have also had the last laugh, as Porzingis has yet again been injured for Boston, not being healthy for all but 3 games this postseason run, but even when he played, he underperformed, going 1 of 11 in Game 2 against the Heat, where he was being guarded by Tyler Hero. But nevertheless, he's still the X-factor in the series for Boston, as if he's healthy and connecting on his threes, he will stretch out the Mavericks defense and force them out of the paint, leading to driving opportunities for Tatum and Brown, which would completely open up the series for the Celtics. The fourth reason that the Celtics are going to win the championship is because of the Mavericks being a newly constructed roster. With the additions of Gafford and Washington, Dallas became a completely different team overnight, boasting a top 5 defense, which has been a huge driving factor to them making the finals. However, even though this team has only been together since the trade deadline, they have played so well, but it doesn't mean that there won't be any chemistry issues in the finals. For the Celtics though, they have had their same core for years now. And sure, many might point to, well, they haven't won a ring yet, but they've gained the experience and trust of each other. And with the addition of the championship DNA of Drew Holiday, this team has just felt more poised in the big moments to me, and as a result have looked like a completely different team this postseason. And you can't just forget about the sensational regular season that the Celtics just had, winning over 60 games, having the best starting lineup in basketball, which was outscoring its opponents by 11 points per game. With Jayson Tatum rounding into form after struggling in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, the Celtics already have an upper hand in this series, and Vegas would agree, as the Celtics are currently 6-point favorites for Game 1. And the fifth reason that the Celtics are going to beat Dallas in the finals has to do with the overall health of the Celtics compared to the Mavericks. With 2 of the Mavericks' best 3 players dealing with injuries, Boston have an upper hand here too, as even though Luka has been great despite his injuries, it only takes 1 wrong step to derail an entire season. For the Celtics though, Tatum and Brown have been virtually scar-free, as the Celtics have cruised to the NBA Finals after losing only 2 games. But that begs a question to be asked. Who would a first ring be more valuable for, Jayson Tatum or Luka Doncic? For Jayson Tatum, it would get the critics off his back and would also put the Celtics above the Lakers for the most championships in NBA history. While for Luka, if he can win a title as the clear best player in only his 6th season in the league, he would be well on his way to becoming one of the greatest players the NBA has ever seen. Now don't get me wrong, I could still see the Mavericks winning this series, but for me I think the Celtics are just an all-round better team than Dallas. And because of this, I see the Celtics winning in 6 games. But that's just my take. Who's winning the NBA Finals and in how many games? Let me know in the comments below.